Alright, hello, and welcome back to Secret of the Stars. Since last time, got the secondary party all up to level 30 like I said I was going to do. And well, don't show it there, but actually I want to check something quick before I leave town. Well, you know what? Better yet, let's see what... Okay, come on. Thank you, game. Just what I wanted. For now. Right. So he doesn't have any magic spells. Kind of like the main hero in Dragon Quest II, except for he's not the main hero of the game, but... Yeah. Alright, so... Magic. Okay, so he's like this party's equivalent to Tina, I guess. Freeze spells. Alright. Okay, fire and storm. Okay, that's... Main party, only one person has fire in the... Those two spells are separated between two different people, so... Here, that's kind of convenient. Okay, he's got freeze and bolt. Leveled up to 3, okay. Ooh. Okay. I don't know how useful or how needed it's going to be. But I noticed nobody here in this secondary party has the bomb spell that Dan does in the main group. Let's see, where is that place to swap out these secondary party members? I think it's this. Yeah. Alright, stats. Well, let's see. There's no, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, he has bolt, big deal. I already have somebody with mastered bolt spells. He doesn't have any magic spells. Neither does she. Alright, I mean, they don't have... Shit. Just thought of that. They're not showing up on this list. Does that just mean they don't have them yet, but can learn them? Or that they don't learn them at all, ever? Well, frick it. Something to look into for later, between future videos. For now, hopefully we don't need that spell, because nobody in this group seems to have it. Anyways, now, for the last time we found out, we need a few items to power this up. We find those items in each of the 4 shrines that the main party went to fight those bosses. And yeah. Can I fly this thing with the no? Secondary party doesn't get to fly, I guess. Fine. Screw you, game. I don't know why they don't get their own airship. Or, excuse me, gyrocopter, as this game calls it. I mean, well, they get their own standard ocean vessel ship. So why can't they get their own? Oh, well, fine. Be that way, game. Anyways, First of those shrines was over here. Now, we go this way. I'm not out to 100% this thing. I'm not going to worry about opening every treasure chest I see. Just find the one that has the item I need. And you should be able to tell when you get to that point because it'll just look like, well, there'll be like 3 treasure chests in that room. There'll just be something out of the ordinary that tells you, hey, this is what you're looking for. And by the look of it, maybe I have already been here and done this. Okay, I could have swore I did that in those videos that got removed because of my save state hard drive issues and whatnot. Parts that I had to redo over. Did I already do this? Am I really that forgetful? Okay, well, there's one way to find out as soon as this battle is over. How many of those mineral sounding items I have in my inventory. Should only have one of them. Iridium, yeah. Okay, yeah, so from the look of it, I may have started going through this place, but never completed it. Unless this is where I got the iridium item from. Which actually might be, now that I think about it. I don't remember going through this on this replay. Okay, you know what? These enemies here are not worth fighting anyway for a measly 20 or so experience points, so... Good, somebody in this party does have it. Okay, well, wait a minute. Can't be a... Okay, that's the dead end. Okay, what's... That just goes to that. Was there anything beyond? Yeah. Oh, okay, wait a minute. What's down here? Dang it, I keep forgetting how short the... how quickly the repel spell loses its effect in this game. I mean, it's nice they have it. More than can be said for Final Fantasy games, but... Yeah. Okay, been there. Okay, maybe I have already done this one. Again, I don't remember doing this one. Not on this replay anyways. Again, I remember going through all 4 of these in the initial run before I ended up having to delete those videos and do them over again. To not skip a good quarter of the game in the process. Like I explained a few videos ago. Had all those first handful of videos where I'd left off and down and play and uploads, recorded and copied over to 2 different hard drives, and since I was running out of space on my main hard drive, deleted them from there, thinking, okay, I still got them backed up on the 2 USB drives, not expecting them both to die at the same frickin' time. Sure enough, yeah. So, yeah. Was either redo the footage from those videos, those next 7 videos, in other words, skipping a good quarter of the entire game to about where I am right now, or just redo it all. Yeah. Okay, I have been here already. Okay, so I guess this is where I got the iridium item. Yeah. Okay, well, that's me and my short-term memory lately. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear I was getting senile already. And I'm only in my mid-50s. Sheesh. Alright, well, that leaves that one. Okay, so... Ooh, excuse me. Yeah. Repel always... I don't know. Of course, I never really figured that out as far as mechanics and scripting goes. Even in Dragon Quest games, I never really figured that out. Does the repel spell, is it timed by real-time minutes, seconds? Or is it based on how many steps you take? How long it lasts, that is. I mean, again, I would say Final Fantasy games, but they never, at least the first 10 never had a repel spell. A couple of them, like Final Fantasy VI, had the Moogle charm bracelet that repelled enemies, but you didn't get that until into the second half of the game, if I remember correctly. And Final Fantasy VII had the enemy away materia, which didn't eliminate random battles entirely. It just reduced the chances of them. Yeah. Even fully mastered, before anybody can ad-lib that possibility. Yeah. Random battles may not have happened as frequently, but they were still a thing. Maybe if you had, once you had it mastered, you got another duplicate copy of that materia. Maybe if you did that a few times over and everybody had one, maybe. But, yeah. Okay, there's what I was looking for. Of course, I do realize, yes, as somebody had asked or pointed out before, yes, I do realize there's many other RPG series, long-standing, long-running RPG series besides just Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. However, those are the two that I played it. Well, granted, every Final Fantasy game from 1 to 10 in the main series. Haven't played anything beyond that since Square Enix went action RPG with the games 12 and up. Not really a fan of action RPGs, with the exception of like Ever Oasis on the 3DS, a game I plan on doing a playthrough of sometime by the end of this year. Or, God, what was it? Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. Or Tales of Vesperia. What system that was originally released on, I don't remember. All I know is I have the remaster on Switch. I think that was originally PS2 or 3, I think. But anyway, very few action RPGs that I've ever really gotten into. Otherwise, I prefer the traditional turn-based ones like this. But even so, there's also the Etrian Odyssey series, but that didn't even start until 2007 on the Nintendo DS. So that's like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior were both into their, over 20 years old as a running series by the time Etrian Odyssey even had its first game out, so not quite the same thing. Besides that, it was almost another 8 years before I even knew the series existed. Like I've said before, 2015, looking for new RPGs for my 3DS that I hadn't played before. And at that time, Etrian Odyssey 2's 3DS remake had literally just come out. So it was naturally, being a brand new game, was naturally tops on RPG search lists for 3DS. So I'm like, Etrian Odyssey, what's that? Never heard of that game before. So even though the series has existed for about, 19 years now, I've only known about it for 11 of those 19. And yeah, yes, I do realize there's many other RPG series besides just Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. Just those are the two that I've always played the most. Since they first started out in North America, 1989 Dragon Warrior 1 and 1990 Final Fantasy 1. And all of the main series games since. Well, as they came out here, which with Final Fantasy, as we all know by now, was a very awkward situation. 1 is 1. 3 is... No. 4 is 2. 6 is 3. Blah, blah, blah. Yak, yak, yak. The real 1 and 2 and 5 aren't released until the late 90s, and by then Part 8 is already out, so yeah. To say I played them as they came out, in order as they came out here in America, is kind of asterisk riddled in and of itself. I mean, to an extent, Dragon Warrior series is as well. 1 through 4 on the NES. 5 and 6 were skipped over for years until the DS remakes. 7 came out on the PS1. 8 on the PS2, 9 on the DS. Yeah. Then the DS remakes of 4 and 5 and 6. Well, 4 got one even though it was already out on the NES, but 5 and 6. Luckily though, they didn't try to rename Dragon Quest 5 and 6, renumber it like Square did with, or actually more like Nintendo of America did with Final Fantasy, to avoid confusion. I mean, of course, if that was going to happen, that would have happened when 7 came out in North America in late 2001. To avoid confusion, Nintendo, well, actually, it wasn't Nintendo, it was Sony, so that's probably how that whole fiasco was avoided again. Dragon Quest 7 was on the PS1. Sony. Had it been Nintendo of America probably would have relabeled part Dragon Warrior 7 as Dragon Warrior 5 to avoid confusion. Wink, wink, wink. Yeah. No big deal. Of course, then there's like Chrono Trigger, which really isn't much of a quote-unquote series. Just eventually 2 games, Chrono Trigger and its sequel, Chrono Cross. 2 games does not really make a series, quote-unquote. Yeah. Not to say that they aren't good games. So fans of the games don't feel like you have to defend the games. I'm not saying the games suck. I'm just saying 2 games doesn't really make a long-standing series. No matter how good those games may be. Kind of like Star Tropics. Well, not really RPG series, but another video game series like that only had 2 games. Yeah. Of course, there's also the Mana series, for which I played Secret of Mana, but yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have played Final Fantasy Adventure as it was labeled here in America, the original Mana series game, mislabeled Final Fantasy for some reason. I wouldn't have played that game because it was on the original Game Boy. Like I've said many times before, something about the original Game Boy, that tiny little 2-inch by 2-inch square black and white screen or black and pale green screen, always, emphasis on that word, always, gave me a headache if I tried to play a game more than an hour at the most. Guaranteed. So yeah, I never really got into original Game Boy games. At least not at the time. Some of them, like Metroid 2 or Link's Awakening, I would play years later in PC emulation, where you could play it on a big screen monitor. So yeah, because it was on Game Boy, I missed the original Mana series game. Played Secret of Mana Part 2, in other words. But didn't play Part 3, Trials of Mana, simply because it was never released here in North America. Not officially outside of PC emulation until, 2019, I think it was? When the collection of Mana came out with the original version of that game, on it. Probably to hype the then upcoming remake of the same game that came out in April of 2020. Yeah. So again, point being, yes, I do realize there's many other RPG series besides just Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, but most of which I never really got into besides maybe one or 2 games from them. So, speaking for personal gaming experience, yeah, not too familiar with anything else. Earthbound, or Mother as it was called in Japan. The first game was never released here, at least not for years to follow, maybe like virtual consoles and minis and stuff like that, but back in its original day in the NES Famicom, no. Part 2 as Earthbound was kind of a hidden gem of the Super Nintendo era. But seems to be getting more notoriety these days than it ever did in 1995 when it was released. And then there was no sequel to it for like 7-8 years? Till the early 2000s, Mother 3. Which again, I don't think was released here, at least I never heard of it. Until years later. So out of that entire short-lived series, I've only ever played Part 2, Earthbound, NES, June 1995. But even that was over 30 years ago now, so I remember very little about it. I mean, I played it when it first came out. That was about it ever since. Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting these guys are pretty much immune to physical attack. Okay, fine. Have it your way, game. Burn! Bad word, burn! What? I was thinking of a Kiss song from 1984's Animalize album. Yeah. Track list order at track 3 after Heaven's on Fire. There you go. Burn! Beep, 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 burn! Word that I won't say here because I try to keep the dialogue, commentary of these videos PG. You know, quote unquote family friendly. Keyword there, try. Sometimes I get a little annoyed and curse words, you know. Curse words flow a little too easily, but shoot, that's right. I wanted to check. Oh, too late now. But before I even entered this shrine, when I was still back in town, wanted to check, make sure. Because again, there's 11 total members for this secondary party. I wanted to see if I'd actually found all 11 of them. Dang it! I hate that. Always remember these things when it's a little too late, so to speak. I mean, it's not really too late. I could go back, but what's the point of doing that now? Okay, never mind. I stand corrected. As I just found what I was looking for, so to speak. Unlike the U2 song, I have found what I'm looking for. And why am I referencing U2? I never really cared much for them. Other than the first single from that very same album, The Joshua Tree, With or Without You, I've never really gave a damn about U2's. I mean, I ended up, gaining an interest in With or Without You because it was the latest single. Yeah, anyways. In 1987, personal flashbacks galore there, so let's not go into that, but yeah. Kept hearing that song played on either radio or the video on MTV so many times that the song kind of grew on me, being their latest single at the time. But otherwise, other than that, I've never really cared much for U2. Again, as with all of my music opinions or my opinions in general, if you disagree, fine. To each their own. Just don't get too insultive don't get too insultive in the comments to these videos, or I shall have to delete your comments. And if you persist on doing such, I shall have to block you for posting future comments. I'm not necessarily dissing the band or those who do like them. I'm just simply saying I do not. Like to all the extremist heavy metal fans out there, when I diss Slayer, you like them, that's fine. You're right to your opinions, and I welcome you to them. But when I say I don't like them, You know, and then somebody calls me a poser, I'm like, screw you. And while you're doing so, tell me, what am I pretending to be that I'm not? Which is the dictionary definition of that word you like to throw around so easily. A heavy metal fan? Well, dude, if I wasn't a heavy metal fan, I wouldn't even know Slayer existed in the first place. I would have never been watching Headbangers Ball or listening to hard rock radio to begin with. Duh. Think before we speak, people. Yeah. Anyways. Now where did I put my controller? Oh, there it is. Did I get... Flea! And I'm not talking about the member of Red Hot Chili Peppers either. Or Needles in the Back to the Future trilogy, if I might add. Anyways. Okay, I was going to say, didn't I get that item? Alright, that's 2. 2 down, 3 to go. Actually, I think there's only 2. So one that I had, I think I already used in the previous video. That's what. I mean, I have to go back and watch the video before this or even the video before that one, but if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I wasn't really paying attention as usual. I was too busy yapping on about something or another, conversation-wise, and wasn't really paying attention to the dialogue, which is quite common on these videos, and people who have been watching these videos long enough are probably used to by now, but yeah. But yeah, I think when we powered this up as much as it is, I think we used that first item, that whatever it was, the iridium. Yeah. IUM ending item, making it sound like some kind of mineral. Uranium, or no. Yeah. And again, that's what tripped me up earlier at the start of this video, because I saw that first one and thinking that that's the one I got. Yeah. Then I still had to go through the 4 shrines to find the other 4. And, yeah. Anyways, by the way, that reminds me, 2 things I want to do while I'm here. First, as I was mentioning, oh shoot, well actually hold that thought. Half hour is already over. Damn. Alright, well, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.